Kalau dia tak cuba, dia tak tahu apa yang dia minat. Bila dah umur dah lepas 13-14 tu, mungkin dia kata tak suka. Tapi sebenarnya tak pernah cuba pun.
So when it comes to anak neurodivergent, naturally in a public space we'll be like, no, jangan, kesian, maybe dia nanti termalu or terbuat salah, right? But I think the approach is we want them to have the autonomy to say, no, I want to try.
Yeah, at every level ada perkembangan dan ada pertukaran cita rasa. Dan sebagai ibu bapa, kita kena peka kepada perubahan-perubahan itu dan memberi peluang untuk mereka eksperimen ataupun membesar. Hello, selamat datang dan selamat kembali ke Kita Family Podcast. Ini adalah episod ke-47 kami. Pada hari ini, saya berada di studio dan bersemangat bersama saya adalah Desiree di studio.
Hai.
Dan Didi dari Kota Kinabalu, Sabah.
Hai, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera.
So pada hari ini kami semua berpakaian merah sebab kami sudah mempunyai mood untuk beraya Cina. So countdown telah bermula untuk tahun ular yang akan menjelang dan kami juga bersedia untuk bercakap bye-bye kepada tahun Arnab.
Arnab ke Dragon?
Oh, tahun ni Dragon ya?
Naga, tahun naga.
Oh, tahun naga. Lupa.
It's okay.
So, tapi tahun ular kan next year?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Betul. Okay. Tapi di Kita Family, kami akan membincangkan perihal yang berkaitan dengan makna serta kepentingan hidup bermasyarakat, menghargai keunikan serta kepelbagaian sesama kita dan meraihkan masyarakat yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita menghargai hidup secara inklusif yang mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat terutama mereka yang kurang atau berkelainan upaya. So, menjelang Hari Raya Cina ini, kami juga akan meneliti pada hari ini apakah evolusi. Sebagaimana ada evolusi daripada tahun naga kepada tahun ular, apakah evolusi perkembangan anak-anak neurodivergent? Ini adalah topik kami pada hari ini dan bersama topik ini kami juga akan membincangkan bagaimana ibu bapa menjadi detektif atau perlu menjadi detektif. Dalam membincangkan perkara ini, kami akan mengupas mula-mulanya apakah evolusi perkembangan yang agak unik untuk anak neurodivergent. Boleh saya mulakan dengan Desiree untuk bertanyakan apakah yang Desiree rasa adalah mempunyai satu significance in the evolution ever since Hans was diagnosed to what he is today.
Banyak sebenarnya. Hari ni baru buat sedikit reflection as well. Actually this past few days lah, saya tengah actually menulis tentang my journey with Hans. Someone has asked me to contribute a book chapter. So memang banyak imbas kembali sejak the day Hans was diagnosed. Banyak sebenarnya evolusi yang signifikan. But I think one of the main ones yang I think belum pernah share lagi dalam Kita Family Podcast is Hans used to have fear of swing kan, buayan, and it's something that I never thought a child could have kan. I mean in your mind, bawalah anak pergi playground main buayan, but this is a child who would scream when you put him on the swing kan. Obviously initially sebelum the diagnosis tak tahulah kenapa, but with the diagnosis then it made sense. Okay, alright, so this is one thing that he doesn't like or he fears. And this is where I really am grateful to occupational therapy and his occupational therapists and teachers. They managed to reduce the fear of swings in Hans to a point where sekarang dia langsung tak takut pun walaupun roller coaster ke dekat Genting Highlands. We've been to the Genting theme park, roller coaster yang terbang-terbang in the mid-air. Mak dia lah yang jerit paling kuat. Tapi Hans was squealing with so much joy. Dia sampai dia menangis sebab roller coaster tu kena berhenti lah. At some point it has to stop, right? So yeah, I think that is one very significant milestone that he achieved, not being afraid of swings.
Okay. And how did you deal with this evolution? And how long did it take? Because katalah dalam melihat atau kalau kita journal kan anak-anak neurotypical ni, kita nak ajar mereka satu skill set tu, kita akan mula dan masa untuk mengajar tu tak panjang sangat. Dia akan master dalam masa yang terdekat. Bagi anak-anak neurodivergent ni mengambil masa yang lebih lama.
Betul.
So dalam evolusi ini, daripada takut sangat dengan buaian kepada hari ini di mana dia suka sangat, apakah tempoh masa dia?
Kalau tak silap saya, in terms of really not being takut of the swing, dalam lingkungan 2 tahun lah saya rasa. And I believe antara teknik yang digunakan oleh cikgu-cikgu dan terapis is they use scaffolding and zone of proximal development, di mana dia introduce it in small increments sahaja. So contohnya cikgu duduk atas buaian, and at that time Hans was just 2 years old, kecil lah. So Hans duduk on the teacher's lap. And the minute he starts to cry, teacher turunkan dia. Right? So then they sort of stretch macam, I always use this rubber band analogy kan for flexibility. So eventually they stretch the time. Eventually Hans duduk on the teacher's lap, then the teacher will swing, and then they put him down. So it took a span of about 2 years lah. About 2 years for him to completely get over the fear of swing and to actually request. Sampai sekarang boleh request. Dia boleh buka AAC dia and request swing.
Adakah itu sahaja peralatan di playground yang Hans tidak suka? What about peralatan lain?
He wouldn't even try the other equipment masa tu. So
Slides,
like seesaw,
monkey bar.
Slide dia macam dia guna slide secara terbalik. He will walk from the instead of naik tangga turun, he will walk up the steep part to go up and slide down, which he still does sebab memang I think it's fun for him, but eventually dia faham lah you kena naik tangga and then turun the slide. So he very obviously never played with things in a typical manner, right? So slide tu memang I never stopped him lah, but when he was ready to learn how to use it the right way, then we guided him on that. So yeah, that was our stories with the playground. So sekarang kita ke Sabah pula, dan I rasa Didi ada lebih banyak evolusi kerana 2 orang anak yang sangat berbeza kan Didi?
Ya, betul.
So macam mana evolusi kedua-dua mereka? Lain atau sama ataupun memang poles apart?
Lain sebab stages pun lain. So macam mungkin kakak akan capai dulu sebelum adik, and then kita kalau cakap pasal evolusi ni, not just anak-anak, ibu bapa pun, even the teachers. So what yang obvious lah bagi kami bila anak-anak makin meningkat remaja kan, kalau dulu kita banyak mahukan anak kita ikut apa yang kita buat lah, maksudnya keputusan tu dibuat oleh parents lah. Okay, kita nak pergi sini, kita nak you pergi kelas ni untuk belajar ni. So mostly parents, saya dan suami buat keputusan, tapi as kita pun semakin meningkat, hopefully semakin knowledgeable lah kan, knowledgeable parents, and anak-anak pun semakin boleh meluahkan apa yang mereka rasa. Dan mula-mula memang macam kita nak compliance tu tau. I think basic selalu sangat autistic parents ni, dia nak achieve compliance, nak anak boleh ikut arahan, anak ikut apa yang kita suruh kan. Kalau tak compliance tu maksudnya macam apa lagi kita perlu hantarlah OT ke speech therapist in term of communication kan untuk achieve perkara tu. Tapi sebenarnya bila anak dah makin besar ni, kita pun perlu mula untuk mendengar apa yang mereka mahukan, kehendak mereka, apa yang mereka minat, apa yang mereka suka, apa yang mereka tak suka. So dia punya tempoh masa anak tu daripada kecil sampai umur 12 tahun tu kita dah expose macam-macam. So dari situ kita boleh lihat lah apa yang mereka minat. Jadi sangat penting lah bagi saya masa anak tu kecil, kita cuba sedaya upaya untuk bagi anak expose dari segi sukan, seni, mungkin muzik. Sebab kalau dia tak cuba, dia tak tahu apa yang dia minat. Bila dah umur dah lepas 13, 14 tu mungkin dia kata tak suka. Tapi sebenarnya tak pernah cuba pun. Jadi kalau dah cuba masa lebih muda, dah cuba dan kemudian rasa tak suka, then that's fine lah. Semua orang pun ada cita rasa. Kita tak boleh macam nak memenuhi kehendak ibu bapa saja. Jadi oleh kerana tu, especially sejak pindah ke Sabah lah, sebab anak-anak dah umur 14, 12 tahun, kita mula take consideration their input bila buat decision. Termasuk nak pindah ke Sabah masa tahun lalu pun kita bincang dengan anak. We came here for 5 days, look around KK, and then the kids still decided nak ikut lah, nak pindah ke sini. And kemudian sekarang pun bila kita nak pergi bercuti kan, nak pergi weekend getaway, tanyalah nak pergi mana, nak pergi somewhere near water ataupun nak pergi highlands. Ni kan dekat gunung apa semua. So they would contribute their ideas as well, and tak boleh nak paksa-paksa sangat lah. And dulu macam saya pun kita kan Asian parents kan suka sangat kalau anak ikut cakap kan. Kita decide anak ikut, tolonglah ikut kan.
Senang.
Tapi tapi kan bila anak saya pergi jumpa psikologis masa tu online session lah dengan Oasis Place kan, online session dengan psikologis, and psikologis pun bincang. Dia kata Amy dah berumur 13-14 tahun, dia sudah boleh buat decision sendiri, dia dah boleh speak up for herself, and it kind of like bukanlah knock me, but menguatkan lagi lah that kita dah perlu ada respect pada anak. Kita tak boleh nak paksa semua, tapi at the same time tak boleh lah ikut je. Kalau ikut je mulalah subjek tu tak nak, itu tak nak, ni tak nak kan. Banyak yang tak nak daripada yang nak. Adalah cara-cara dia untuk nak cuba nak motivate, cuba nak dapatkan dia punya kesediaan lah untuk mencuba perkara yang baru. So dia punya approach dia dah tak boleh lah. Kalau kecil-kecil dulu kita dukung je, masuk dalam kereta, hantar. Sekarang kalau tak nak macam mana kita nak paksa masuk kereta nak hantar kan. Jadi it takes more on the parents, and then also kita punya teamwork dengan therapist. Of course, we always discuss, okay, what are the issues, the current issues, what are the planning of the family kan. Kita nak tahun depan macam at the end of last year 2024 kita dah discuss, okay, what our plan for 2025. Kita minta jugalah therapist untuk bincang bersama dengan anak-anak kita, so that benda yang sama, tak adalah dia isolated kan, perkara yang dibincangkan oleh terapis dengan anak benda lain, kita pula benda lain. Sedangkan kita dah dapat kan services tu kan untuk anak kita. Nak fikir apa, might as well make it an integrated plan, so that yalah, anak kita pun lebih mudah lah untuk menerima. Bukan lebih, it's never easy, tapi we had to figure out a way lah. Kan, kalau yang non-verbal dengan cara macam mana, kalau yang dah boleh bercakap macam mana, yang dah, even anak saya antara yang umur 15 dengan 14 pun cara dia lain. Dia dah membesar kan, development dia dah think ahead. The way kita nak baca apa yang dia fikirkan pun not that easy, tapi perlulah, tak boleh lah the way we parent masa dia umur 10 tahun, bila dah umur 15 pun macam tu juga. Tak boleh lah. So those are the changes
lah. So jadi kesimpulan dia, sebagai parent kepada anak neurodivergent, kita juga perlu peka, sebab mereka pun asyik berubah. Bukan anak neurotypical sahaja berubah, tapi anak neurodivergent pun berubah. Dan ada evolusi mereka. Ada yang evolusi daripada katalah makanan yang mereka kurang suka, tapi sekarang boleh try. Ada tak macam tu, Didi?
Ada. Selama ni kan kita nak suruh dia makan ikan, tak nak makan ikan, and kita fikir ikan masakan apa yang dia nak makan kan. Rupa-rupanya dia nak makan ikan mentah, sashimi.
Oh, ya ke?
Wow.
Oh, ni ada anak Jepun sikit.
Oh, dia yang sulung tu memang Afia memang very into Japanese lah. Even she belajar sikit-sikit bahasa Jepun, suka nyanyi lagu Jepun, and makanan pun sekarang suka makanan Jepun. So that's the thing about language kan. Orang selalu cakap macam, oh, anak-anak autistik yang suka cakap bahasa Inggeris tak nak cakap bahasa Melayu. And ramai cakap, oh, because bahasa Inggeris tu senang. Tapi instead of nak belajar mahirkan bahasa Melayu, dia pergi pick up bahasa Jepun pula.
Itu adalah evolusi yang sangat tidak dijangka kan?
Tapi
sebab
kita
dia
tak
ada
boleh
tak
lah.
exposure kepada bangsa Jepun ke, bahasa Jepun ke, yang buat dia tiba-tiba minat?
I think it's in the gene, maybe lah, because my husband dulu kan masa sekolah dia ada belajar third language, Japanese. Jadi pelajar terbaik sampai masa dia umur 16 tahun, dia dah dapat pergi ke Jepun untuk few days lah, ada program pertukaran pelajar. So I think dia kan minat, ayah dia minat, and dia pun minat, I guess so. So it's in the gene. Sebab mak dia tak ada langsung like, you don't ask me to pick up a new language. No. I just cannot.
Despite being TESOL trained, ya, tak boleh pick up new language.
No. So tak boleh sebab English as second language, third language I tak boleh.
I think from what I dengar dari Didi is also about honouring them, their wants and their needs kan. So ini pun satu pembelajaran yang besar untuk Desiree, di mana semasa kami memperkenalkan AAC device kepada Hans, of course di hari-hari yang awal memang is needs based kan, but as we went on with the sessions, the speech therapist is the one that sat me down and said, hey, you kena encourage Hans to advocate for himself. So mesti ada perkataan or phrases for him, number one, to advocate for himself. No, I don't want to do this. No, I don't like this. No, I don't want. And actually, he found it very fascinating because he found the go away button. And because whenever he pressed go away, people will laugh, right? But he also understands what go away is. So instead of saying I don't want, he tends to use the go away button. So it's great because he can advocate for himself. Then satu lagi yang was very difficult for me to do, but I did, was to put in, so Hans went from a picky eater, tak boleh makan semua benda, to nak makan semua benda, especially junk food. Cheezels, twisties and all that, right? So
MSG galore.
Yes, and then MSG we know lah, it does wondrous things to our children kan, to their attention, to their behavior and whatnot, right? But the speech therapist said, no, Desiree, you have to put the options in there. And then you sebagai ibu kena manage. If he cannot have it, find a way to manage to say, no, you can't have it now, you can have it later. Kan? So I think this is my important message to parents as well. If you're going to use things like AAC device, it is not a means for you to control their needs and wants. You're giving them a tool for autonomy. So you have to keep reminding yourself that.
So I memang I think when preparing for this episode, saya memang terfikir apakah evolusi yang saya sangat macam terkejut pasal Nira. And actually banyak daripada tak boleh pergi potong rambut dan rimas kerana dia tak tahan dengan barber lah, dengan gunting lah, dengan razor, kepada memilih hairstyle sekarang. Dia boleh pergi sendiri, dia boleh bayar sendiri, dia boleh choose design sendiri, semua dia boleh buat. So yang tu saya dulu risau sebab mula-mula kena cuba di rumah, dan lepas tu dia kena cari seorang tukang gunting rambut yang dia boleh berkomunikasi dengan dan rasa selesa, kan? Itu yang menjadi satu cabaran. Tetapi masa tu saya memang fikir, macam ni dia kena rambut panjang ke? Kalau pergi sekolah nanti macam mana? And especially kalau dah cuti sekolah, kita tak potong rambut kan, sebab it's easier, just let it be and it's one less stress on you. But tiba-tiba bila nak masuk sekolah tu, perlulah kita bawa untuk potong rambut. So things like that. Sekarang ni dia yang datang, oh my hair's long, I need a haircut. Alright, dia yang remind, and dia rimas kalau rambut dia terlalu panjang. So memang dah sangat berbeza. Dan lepas itu satu lagi yang memang sangat ketara bagi saya adalah satu yang memang dulu occupational therapist kata, oh please don't push him because kami ni gemar makan makanan Cina. So menggunakan chopstick itu menjadi satu kebiasaan bagi keluarga saya. Dan I think kebanyakan masyarakat Malaysia yang grow up in Malaysia tu memanglah kalau dah berapa kali makan tu memang dah slowly learn to use chopsticks kan. So dan saya diperkenalkan kepada peralatan chopsticks tu sejak saya kecil. So I think I assume that my kids pun akan sama. Tapi dengan Niraf memang mencabar because it's managing a chopstick, and with neurodivergent kids that is really, really difficult. And
it's difficult for me too. I just want to own up to that. I still can't use chopsticks.
So and it was just I think 2 years ago when I realized one day we went out and they had just served chopsticks, and when they said, oh, would you like a fork and spoon, and he said, no, I'm fine. I was like, okay. Tapi macam rasa macam Didi cakap lah, tapi kita kena accept lah kalau dia itu adalah permintaan dia kan. And dia telah menggunakan chopstick itu. Dan dia cuba juga untuk gunakan chopstick itu untuk makan nasi. And that's when I put my foot down and said, okay, no. You stop here, and maybe for this you use the spoon. Tapi the effort that he took, because he was ready, and you have to accept that change. And this is a positive change. So kalau macam Didi kata, kalau sebagai parent kita kata, no, he needs he cannot use chopstick, he needs fork and spoon. Itu tidak memberi anak-anak kita peluang untuk evolve. So we need to take that opportunity. If they want to try and they are ready to try, we cannot be so mollycoddling and buat mereka macam rasa tercekik kan.
I think the question to ask is, dalam situasi yang sama, sekira anak tersebut neurotypical, adakah kami akan memberi peluang yang sama?
Ya, pasti. Right? Sebab mereka nak cuba tu cubalah. Chopstick kan.
So when it comes to anak neurodivergent, naturally in a public space, we be like, no, jangan, kesian, maybe dia nanti termalu or terbuat salah, right? But I think the approach is we want them to have the autonomy to say, no, I want to try.
Yes.
And kita mesti terimalah sebagai ibu bapa.
Betul. Sebab I rasa bila mereka kecil kan, you rasa macam kadang-kadang kalau mereka tak boleh guna chopstick tu, mereka akan tantrum, mungkin meltdown, and then kalau the food doesn't go in fast enough, it becomes an issue. So, and the other fear was, what if they mess up? Bila mereka mess up, ada makanan tumpah atas baju ke apa, and we are in a public space, kalau tak ada change of clothes tu menjadi masalah. So semakin mereka membesar, mereka boleh tahu jaga diri sendiri dan kurang sensory. Kalau something drips ke, mereka tahu untuk bertanyakan, can I have a wet wipe? Is there a tissue? Macam dah pandai urus diri. So bila dah pandai urus diri tu, kita kena bagi mereka peluang lah. Walaupun benda ni kecil kepada orang lain, tapi bagi anak yang neurodivergent tu besar. Because in OT tu, this is extremely fine motor skills.
Betul. And the fact that they want to try, because it means that they feel safe. That's why they macam, okay nak cuba. And lagi satu sebab kita tak jemu untuk still bawa keluar untuk experience the world rather than macam tunggu you dah pandai dekat rumah baru you boleh pakai kat luar. Tak, because even my anak pun like chopstick tu, okay, the extreme kan, you talk about the extreme of my 2 children. Seorang tu makan, okay, the one yang makan sashimi tu, dia pakai chopstick tu, dia step and makan.
Okay. Okay.
I do that with sushi.
Because semua orang pakai chopstick kan, dia pun macam, okay, this is a place that people use chopstick, and cutlery, fork and spoon tak ada dekat atas meja tu. Boleh je minta sebenarnya. Tapi adik dia, you know kan, kalau pergi sushi places, they have edamame, the kacang ni kan. So dia akan peel, and then dia dah kumpulkan all the kacang edamame tu, dah semua out of the kulit, and dia pakai chopstick tu satu-satu makan.
Oh.
Dia boleh, dia sangat mahir.
And very patient to do it one by one.
Yeah. For me, like, itu pun OT juga. I macam, okay, tunggu je lah, let her take her time to do that, and boleh pula dia fokus kan masa tu, like, okay, that's what you want. Dia sampai dah siap habis semua, dah siap semua keluar daripada dia punya kulit kacang tu, baru dia mula makan kacang tu satu mangkuk. So agaknya kakak dia nampak adik dia kan pakai chopstick mahir, itulah dia pun nak cuba juga, and kita pun takkan nak marah. Orang tengah mood, tengah makan makanan favourite ni, kita nak marah-marah, nak control, macam don't use that, might as well use the fork. Boleh minta lah fork, tapi tak apalah. And kita bukannya macam, it's not like ceremonial, kita pergi makan keluarga kan, walaupun di luar, but it's not dalam majlis yang tradisi ke apa kan. So
bukannya banquet.
Kadang-kadang kan I understand, kita masa anak kita kecil-kecil dulu pun, bila anak kita menangis ke tantrum ke, kita rasa malu. Even sekarang pun kadang-kadang macam waiter jerit sikit, kita the immediate reaction is malu. Tapi lepas tu like cuba fikir balik, kita nak malu kenapa orang yang keliling tu tak kenal pun kita, and anak kita, we just like macam, okay, dah tenangkan dia, that everything is okay. Tak apalah kalau sampai mengganggu, macam dia pergi ke meja lain, that is different lah. Itu tanggungjawab kita lah untuk menjaga anak kita kan. Tapi think about all this reaction that can actually happen bila anak tu kecil, umur 2-3 tahun macam tu boleh buat. Kita tak kisah sebab dia kecil lagi. Kalau untuk anak yang neurodevelopmental delay ni, mungkin sampai dia umur dah remaja pun dia masih lagi melakukan perkara yang baby buat. So kita terima that it is part of them, and everybody make mistake, everybody can be clumsy. Kita pun boleh macam tertumpahkan air ke apa. Bukan orang you ada diagnosis baru you buat silap. So be kind to yourself. And of course, kita family ni, we also have hope that the society also be kind towards others lah, be more understanding kan.
Yeah. So kesimpulannya, anak kita ni walaupun neurodivergent, bukan rigid sampai dia takkan membesar dan mempunyai pilihan-pilihan yang berbeza. So the child at 2, the child at 4, the child at 5, the child at even 6.5, and then the child at the teens, at every level ada perkembangan dan ada pertukaran cita rasa. Dan sebagai ibu bapa, kita kena peka kepada perubahan-perubahan itu dan memberi peluang untuk mereka eksperimen ataupun membesar. Kadang-kadang mereka tu perlukan hanya motivasi daripada kita sebagai parents untuk cuba. So I think one of the good tips is to always think in your head, what's the worst thing that can happen if I let my child try? And if the answer is just something messed up, or they will just fail and have to try again, like in any neurotypical child, you just let them be. Kalau dengan neurotypical children, daripada nak kayuh basikal tu dalam sekejap je mereka boleh, dan anak neurodivergent tu bertahun baru boleh kayuh, tak apa, they get there. Tapi apa yang kita perlu tahu is when the change comes, be ready to embrace it. On that note, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back after the break to continue on our topic on perubahan dan evolusi anak-anak neurodivergent. Selamat kembali ke episod ke-47 Kita Family Podcast. Dalam episod hari ini, kami sedang membincangkan berkenaan evolusi dan perkembangan anak-anak neurodivergent. Dan dalam segmen pertama, kami telah memberi contoh bagaimana kami dapat lihat anak-anak kita menjadi lebih peka dan lebih bersedia untuk mencuba benda yang mereka mula-mulanya tidak suka, dan ada juga mereka membuat perubahan personality juga. Dalam segmen kedua ini, kami akan membincangkan sedikit lagi berkenaan macam mana kita nak tahu anak kita bersedia untuk sesuatu. And in one of our earlier episodes, we talked about wearing many hats. Today, we're going to talk about a specific hat, being a detective. Sebab itu adalah satu juga, well, I think any parent is sometimes a detective. Sometimes we are detectives for other people's children. Tapi ini untuk anak neurodivergent, bagaimana kita boleh menjadi detektif? Adakah ini satu peranan yang penting, Desri, you think?
Definitely sangat penting, dan saya rasa pernah juga saya share dalam episod sebelum ni tentang menjadi detektif bila sesuatu berubah untuk Hans, di mana perangai dia tukar, there's adverse behavioural changes at home and at school. Adalah saya pernah ceritakan dalam episod sebelum ni. So hari ni saya nak tanya Anit dan Didi tentang mungkin boleh beri contoh sedikit. Kita pergi kepada Anit dahulu. Beri sedikit contoh tentang instance di mana Anit menjadi detektif untuk to find out if Nirav is ready for something.
Okay, so sebab Nirav pergi kepada sekolah yang ada anak-anak tipikal. So the milestones adalah berbanding dengan anak-anak neurotypical dan bukan dengan anak-anak neurodivergent. So sometimes I think kita, at least these were mistakes that I made, we rush them into things that they thought they were ready for. So katalah mereka kata, oh, by this age kena hafal sifir, by this age dah mula bermain team sports, by this age they should be able to start with a musical instrument. So like I remember he took much longer to learn how to swim. Dan mula-mula tu untuk dia tukar baju dan masuk dalam swimming pool pun menjadi cabaran. Sebab takut dan rasa macam kurang confident. Tetapi satu hari saya rasa macam bila saya cakap, oh, we are going swimming, dia nak pergi tapi nak main, bukan nak belajar untuk berenang. Tapi pada satu hari dia memang cakap pada saya, I think I'm going to be good at swimming. So I rasa macam, okay, dia cakap macam tu, tapi betul ke tak? Tapi tiba-tiba swimming coach kat sekolah message I, cakap, you need to come in one of the swimming days just to see him. And bila saya masuk, dia telah berjaya.
Wow.
Berenang tanpa float, tanpa apa-apa. So saya tanya kepada coach dia, when did this happen? He said, I don't know, but one day he said, Coach, I'm ready. Tapi sebelum tu kita nak paksa macam mana pun, dia tak bersedia. So coach tu pun cakap dengan I, bukannya kita biarkan dia tak buat apa-apa, kita bagi dia main dulu, as the rubber band analogy, do a little bit. Tapi satu hari bila dia bersedia, dia boleh swim the whole lap. So itu menjadi satu oh wow moment for me. And bila saya duduk masa tu, saya terfikir semua hari-hari yang saya memang struggle nak bawa ke changing room, nak buat macam mana. Dan bila dia boleh buat tu, dia sangat gembira sampai boleh menyanyi dalam changing room. So that was like a big milestone. But the detective was not so much me. It was the coach.
The swimming coach.
The swimming coach.
So the accommodations made by the swimming coach and the scaffolding, because ini adalah example of scaffolding kan, made Nirav feel safe At the end of the day is bila kami nak anak-anak kita yang neurodivergent mencuba sesuatu yang baru, mereka mesti berasa selamat, safe. I think safety and being in control is a big thing for them, and clearly this coach did that.
Yeah, so similarly for music classes, when I started initially, lepas 2-3 kelas dia kata dia tak nak. And saya tak tahu kenapa. You know, was he not ready? Tapi kita kena hormat lah. Menjadi detektif tu hormat. Tapi lepas tu saya juga telah membuat selidikan sikit. I rasa in that case the music teacher asked him something that was quite offensive, that he felt not comfortable. And you know, most neurodivergent kids are teacher pleasers. I think actually most neurotypical kids are too. They will do better in a subject if they love the teacher, or they like the teacher. So I think that was a big no-no. So although dah bayar tu, kena forfeit lah. Tak apa, stop. Dan stop, dan mula bila dia bersedia semula, ataupun if that is just not what they want, kita kena pause. And I think the best thing for any neurodivergent parent to think of is, you may have a list of things that are good for your child. If they are not ready, pause, but always have a list, because in a year or two, bila mereka dah berubah, dah mungkin lebih bersedia, topik itu boleh diperkenalkan semula. Dan mungkin masa tu mereka lebih willing to try again, and maybe by that time they can have a conversation with you to explain what they want and what they don't want. And maybe it's sometimes the instrument that's chosen. Mungkin dia nak nyanyi, tapi kita paksa mereka main keyboard, mereka tak suka kan. So you know, so I know we have a lot of neurodivergent kids who are very musically inclined, they're very talented, you know, but it has to be something they like.
Yep. Betul. It's what they like and not what we want from them.
Yes.
Which I have learned so many times as we had attempted football with Hans, which clearly he didn't like. Kan? So I think it's good that we honor the likes of and also the dislikes of our children.
Yes.
Okay, Didi pula macam mana? Boleh tak beri contoh? Bukannya boleh, memang boleh. Didi bagi contoh di mana Didi menjadi detektif.
Okay, jadi detektif kan dia memerlukan all this fikir balik, look back, all the pengalaman dulu-dulu, the track record kan, apa dah jadi, kan, masa bila dia lebih anxious. So apa yang berlaku sekarang ni, kita baru mula academic year yang barulah untuk anak sulung saya, dan nak dia ambil subjek baru, dan selama ni the past 1 year kita di KK, dia pelajaran dia ambil kelas 1-to-1, dia tak nak ada group. Tapi yelah, sampai bila nak 1-to-1 kan, jadi nak dia cuba group. So dalam keadaan dia kan, every time the therapist, the psychologist in fact discuss dengan dia, the psychologist, the one that she have been seeing daripada dia umur 7 tahun. So memang membesar dengan psikologis yang sama. So minta discuss lah, okay, I think about time you join group pula, about time you take more subjects. Oh tak nak, every time discuss tak nak. Tapi lepas tu bila discuss lagi kan, kita cari apa yang dia minat. So dia naturally lah, budak zaman sekarang kan minat komputer. So I say okay, let's do ICT. Join a group ICT. The thing about Afia, she knows that she need more time to process. That's why she knows that like certain subject dia tak nak dalam group. Nanti it will be too fast. Based on her experience dululah masa dalam group setting kan. Tapi I said tak apa, we try ICT. Dengan jadual yang baru, kalau tahun lepas semua jadual dia selepas tengah hari. Tak ada kelas pagi. So sekarang ni kelas bermula seawal 8.30 pagi. So kita ada banyak changes lah. Berpindah ke rumah baru, timetable yang baru, ada kelas yang pagi, kemudian ada kelas yang ada group setting. Bila kita cakap tu, dia tak nak. So berdasarkan pengalaman kita yang dulu, Afia ni bila kita memberi mungkin macam contoh set up new rules lah, peraturan yang baru kan, dia akan marah lah, dia tak boleh terima. Tapi after a while, dia tak, lepas beberapa jam dia okay. So tak perlu macam kita beritahu, dan bila dia memberontak tu kita marah sampai dia okay, sampai dia macam okay mama, fine, tak perlu. I just macam cakap sekali and then let her process. Of course the way dia process tu dalam keadaan grumpy lah, siap masuk bilik mogok lapar. So I was like macam alah, I did that. Dia skip dinner, tak nak turun dinner.
Beli sashimi ke next time?
The thing is, lepas tu malam pukul 1-2 pagi nanti dia bangun lah lapar. And I was like, alah, come on lah. Mama dulu whole night terus tak makan. Like, you betul-betul nak marah kan? You nak skip, you skip dinner betul-betul. Padahal lah, I mean, kita dah tahu kan dia punya pattern dia. Nak terima new things, dia akan marah. So what we did, kita jangan lawan lah. We just like state lah, bagi tahu. Bukannya macam sentiasa kena ikut je. Kalau dia kata tak nak, tak apalah, kita pun retract back whatever we said. No, it wasn't like that. In fact, bila I dapat jadual kan daripada center dia, masa tu dia cuti 2 minggu. So I tanya dia, masa tu baru mula cuti lah, kita pun baru pindah rumah. And I tanya, I already got your schedule, you want to see now or you want to enjoy your holiday? No need to see it first. And she was like, okay, don't let me see it. So okay lah. But after a while, dah seminggu, going to the second week like cuti, dia pun macam dah tenang apa semua. Baru I bagi. Bila bagi pun I did not macam cakap banyak lah. Cakap, see, kelas pagi ni you have to bangun awal, you have to, no nagging, no apa, sebab kita dah kenal Afia jenis yang whenever needed, dia bangun pagi, dia boleh bangun pagi sendiri. She can be a morning person. Dia tak ada macam susah nak bangun pagi ke apa. And in fact, kalau kita bagi tahu dia, okay, we are going out at 3 o'clock. We are going to shopping mall at 3 o'clock. 2.50 dia dah ada dah dekat living room, dah siap dah dengan everything apa semua. Dia memang punctual. You tak perlu macam pukul 2.30 remind her, we are going out in 20 minutes. She's not like that. Tapi kalau kita repeatedly, dia jadi rimas. Dia macam tu, dia macam rimas semua. So we know that the pattern is bagi tahu and let her process. Give her time and jangan nak ulang-ulang. And konon kita rasa macam nak motivate or kita nak checking on her. But that's not how she function lah. And also leading to bila dah nak mula sekolah tu kan, lagi 3-4 hari nak mula balik tu, I tanya dia, stationery cukup? Dia macam grumpily, dia macam tak apalah, I pun check lah, ada je semua. Dia macam tak suka orang sibuk-sibuk lah macam tu. And kita pula bila dah the day before sekolah start, because it will be new teachers, new group, everything, we brought her out for lunch and let her choose what she wanted to eat lah. She decide on the family meal that day. Dia macam dah jadi celebrate, tapi tak mula lagi sekolah. But what we tried to do was to make her happy, because we already know bila dia happy, dia kurang anxious. Ataupun the anxiety tu tak completely go away, tapi dia tidak menambahkan lagi lah. Dia macam, dia nak jadi kata semangat 100% tu tak lah, tapi jangan tambahkan elemen-elemen lain yang membuatkan dia lebih resah. So dia pun macam okay, everything dah sorted apa semua. And banyak yang macam kita mengalah lah, macam and ada juga yang benda yang macam I tak sangka, tapi dia choose. Macam hari, I think I did share dengan you guys hari Isnin tu, where dia ada gap, ada lunch time tau. Biasa sebab center dia tak ada kantin. So dia ada satu kelas before lunch dengan the first time dengan group. Itu pun I dah macam anxious. Mama dia anxious, tapi because we have learned that kalau mak anxious, anak pun boleh anxious. So mama did everything that I can to make me more relaxed, tapi mindful lah. When we are anxious, we are concerned, we take all the extra steps. What we want to be caution about lah kan. Sebab dia bila lunch tu, dah lah the same time lunch tu I have to pick up adik dia daripada center lain. So I tak boleh stay dengan dia during lunch lah. So I tanya dia, you nak bawa bekal dan makan di center, ataupun you nak pergi cafe, sebab center dia ada cafe kat sebelah tu. Sebelum ni pun dia selalulah pergi beli air, and lepas tu I pick her up, ataupun dia beli air dan masuk ke kelas kan. So dia kata tak apa, no it's okay, I don't want to bring any lunch, I'm gonna have lunch by myself at the cafe. And like, my autistic daughter yang macam tak apa nak bercakap ni, nak makan sorang-sorang, and she's a girl some more kan. So macam I tell you, I was like macam nervous je, macam nak bagi ke tak nak bagi ke.
Tapi bersyukur
that
juga
day-
kat dalam tu.
Yeah.
Dalam hati tu bersyukur kan.
Sebab nampak progress kan, the development kan. Dia dah ready. Tapi I pun macam okay, beritahu cikgu sekolah Amy that akan ambil dia lambat sikit. Bukan lambat sangat, tapi lambat daripada biasa. And I was there masa dia order makan. Sebab I couldn't stay the whole time, lunch time lah. So I think dia just nak perhati. I don't know, I think it was more for my perasaan kot. Sebab dia tak minta I teman pun. Dia tak ada kata macam, oh mama, can you teman me on the first day? No, she didn't say anything like that. And dia okay je sendiri. But I just want to see how lah. And nampaklah dia boleh order makan, but I just had to remind few things lah. Macam contoh, dia nak pergi toilet, dia just tinggalkan handbag dia. So I said, okay, if you want to go to the toilet after you order the food, you can leave your school bag, but bring your handbag lah pergi toilet kan. So tak adalah tinggal barang berharga. So those things that I needed to remind her. And then of course kita punya communication dengan teachers lah. We get feedback from teachers, and bila dia dapat masuk WhatsApp group dengan classmates dia pun, I shamelessly macam minta lah, can I see your WhatsApp group, what did the teacher say, what did the friend say. So kita, sebab the communication kadang-kadang they don't I'm not saying, I don't know because I tak ada anak typical, so I tak tahu like typical kids, but always like bandingkan dengan diri sendiri lah, like how we grew up kan, macam kita dulu macam mana at this age kan. So selain dia bertanya, like tanya dia verbally, and based on what dia cakap, kita pun tanya dengan cikgu, tengok WhatsApp dia. So the detective work tu and the deduction lah, it's not just apa yang kita nampak, and then kita kena buat deduction, and anak kita happy ke tak, and kita tahu dia happy ke tak, tengoklah selera makan dia macam mana, and then dia punya demeanor, sikap dia dekat rumah macam mana. Kalau dia tak happy tu, kita tak bagi cakap apa-apa pun dia tak ada words dah keluar, dia macam tu je kan. Tapi apparently lepas 2-3 hari kelas ni, she's okay, she's in a good mood, selera makan ada, tak ada marah-marah. So we know that she's okay, and at the same time we still try to not ask her to do much lah, like tak nak bagi dia stress apa-apa lagi. And lagi satu, because we know that first few weeks of school year ni tough, sebab yelah you baru nak kenal subjek, nak kenal cikgu. So what we did, we planned a holiday for this Chinese New Year, which is in 3 weeks time. So lepas macam 2-3 minggu susah ni, okay kita akan holiday. Sebab kita tahu anak kita macam, when there's something happy that we look forward to, dia, yelah, you work hard, and then later you can play hard. Macam tu lah.
Which is very goal orientated, Didi. Macam anak neurotypical pun sama. Kalau dah habis exam, kita pergi sampai. Kalau you do well.
Tapi tak adalah baru 3 minggu sekolah dah ni. Because we know the intensity it takes for neurodivergent kids kan. The anxiety dia, daripada dia macam, tak nak, kenapa mama make me do this. But kita nak bagi dia buat something that very hard. The way we support her, the way it's different. It's different that macam the intensity of what it takes them to do it dengan the intensity of how we
react
deal
to
with it kan.
Yes. What we're trying to say is it goes both ways kan. Sometimes if you feel confident and you tell the child, I think you can do this, instead of saying, do you think you can do this, do you need me there, if you sometimes put a positive affirmation, dia mungkin akan sahut cabaran itu lebih untuk cakap, yes, I can do this mama.
Yeah, and timing lah. Timing. Dia nak suruh dia buat benda yang susah, janganlah dalam keadaan yang susah, dalam keadaan yang nerve-wracking, dalam keadaan yang macam nervous
dah stress
sangat.
pasal benda lain.
Stress pasal benda lain. So those things kena take into account juga, because I think everybody, all autistic parents especially, autism parents, they should know about regulation. Like kids do better when they are regulated, and kalau dia dysregulated, benda yang dia boleh buat pun mungkin dia dah jadi tak boleh buat, and benda yang baru lagi dia tak nak buat. So I believe a lot in regulation, and regulation is not just about the child, about the parents as well.
Yeah. So, based on what Didi shared just now on Ofia's first week back at school kan, it can easily be perceived as helicopter parenting kan. So, although what you're doing actually is detective work. So, my point is sebenarnya benda ni penting.
Betul?
We have to do it walaupun we want to give autonomy to our kids to decide what they want, what they need, but the big element here is safety. So I think Didi, what you did memang spot on lah, right? You want to make sure your daughter is safe. First time dia pergi lunch seorang-seorang in a cafe, walaupun tempat yang familiar, tempat yang biasa, safety is number one. And secondly, getting to know what is in the WhatsApp group is about mutual trust kan. So we hear about a lot of cases of bullying.
Yes,
Kan?
and predators.
So, and predators. So I think it's good that you and your daughter have that trust that she feels safe to bagi mama telefon dia to read her messages, and staying in touch with the teachers as well, so that in case dia balik rumah moody, if something had happened at school, you would probably know why. Kan? So good job Didi.
Yes, good job.
Yeah.
And good detective works. Because I use the word detective because I remember even with Nirav, when we were teaching him regulation, we told him he needed to be a social detective. And he needed to come back and tell us what his friends felt, because neurodivergent children are very poor at reading emotions of others. So instead of reading it, to be a detective, you need to go and ask, how are you feeling today? Do you want to be my friend today? Those kind of questions. And when you give them the courage to do it, they will learn to bergaul, make friends, and be sometimes accepted as part of the group. So detective work the same way as regulation works both ways. Sometimes your neurodivergent kids can be your detectives too.
They can be their own detectives.
They can be their own detectives as well.
Yeah. Another thing I think we can briefly touch on before we wrap up is kita cakap tentang evolusi kan, dan perkembangan. So far we've been talking on a positive note, which is great. We all want positive things. Tapi we have to also acknowledge the fact that regression pun boleh jadi, it can happen, and it happens all the time. And this is one key thing that I learned lah di dalam pelbagai training yang saya pergi, parent training and all that. And with regression, we are told, number one, kadang-kala regression happens when the neurons are connecting and firing properly, so they will regress before it properly connects. And the other thing is, memanglah kita akan rasa sedih lah, frustrated lah, marah lah, and it's fine as a parent, feel that. But remember, you've done it before.
Yes.
Pernah je, kita dah tahu dah A to Z how to get to the other side. So feel upset, feel angry, call lah your friend, menangis ke, menjerit ke. But
dulu dah boleh buat benda ni dah, sekarang tak boleh dah. Tak apa, reverse sikit.
Yes, and restart.
Yes.
And do it again. And it will require a lot of detective work as well, because regression pun dia ada puncanya. Dia triggers on what it happens as well.
And sometimes it's emotional deregulation that causes regression.
Yeah.
At times it can be one of the factors.
Yeah.
So kat sini kan, like I think one point that also we should remember bila kita nak buat detective work, bila ada berlaku regression, that you have friends, that you are not alone. You have kita punya ni kan friends, and then sometimes kita tak nampak, kita tak boleh nak fikir tau, kenapa jadi macam ni. But then when we shared with our friends yang fellow autism parents, mereka lebih nampak, mereka lebih mudah macam list out kan benda yang kita perlu check lah, trigger. Have you check kesihatan dia, apa jadi in the house. Sebab in the heat of the moment, kita parents ni selalu rasa stuck and rasa give up, rasa marah kan. So this is where that if you have enough, if you have good circle, you can reach out and things will be easier that way lah. That what you the next step that you should take, the next step that you should figure out tu lebih mudah daripada you sendiri fikir sorang-sorang.
The power of community and support.
Yes, and I think what Didi said is spot on, because sometimes you may see it as a regression, but if you have a support system outside who looks at your child, that person may say, tapi Didi, dia kan dah compared to a year ago, she's already doing this and already doing that. This is a small setback, and in the heat of the moment, as a parent who's going through that crisis or seeing a little bit of regression or more regression, you may feel it's like masalah dunia, because it took you so long to reach there. Tapi sometimes a detective on the outside will be able to say, oh, but that was so much worse. You've already come 90% of the way. It's only 10%. And then you realize the journey to get back there is not that long. And this is why we at Kita Family always emphasize the need of community support and supportive people around you to help you in your parenting journey.
Absolutely.
Okay. So on that note, this is something that came on WhatsApp by actually it was sent to be my good friend Rajita. This was from you, and I seek permission to read it out because it was something that came because we also exam moms kepada ibu yang sedang menyokong anak yang menduduki SPM. This is also for you. So an open letter to the high-performing mothers who have been sold a lie. Dear Mama Bear, you've been told that being a good mom means sacrificing everything. Your dreams, your time, your peace. You've been told that motherhood is a trade. You're light for their love. Society sold us the script, and many of us bought it, folding ourselves into boxes that don't fit, wearing exhaustions like a badge of honor. But let me ask you something. What if the version of motherhood we've been handed is rooted in lack? What if we didn't have to choose between your dreams and your family? What if your purpose didn't take from your kids but added something immeasurable to their lives? Last week, I was confronted with my own lack mindset. I spent years holding back, terrified that if I leaned too hard into my work, I'd lose my connection with my family. It's the story so many of us were taught, that success comes at the expense of love. But here's the truth no one tells you. Our children don't need us to trade our joy for theirs. They need us to show them what it looks like to live fully alive. When I choose to rest after a long day of pouring into others, my daughter didn't see me as selfish. She saw me as worthy of care. When I poured my heart into my business, she didn't feel neglected. She felt inspired. She cleaned the house, bought me dinner, and left a note on my desk that brought me to tears. And in that moment, I realized the way we show up for ourselves teaches our children more about love, abundance, and the purpose that words ever could. So, Mama, it's time to unlearn the lie. Stop shrinking, stop trading your light for their comfort, stop letting guilt keep you from the fullness of what you were called to do. Because every time you tell yourself, I can't chase my dreams because I'm a mom, what you're really saying is there's not enough room for me and them, and that's not true. It never has been. Abundance is your birthright. Purpose and motherhood are not at odds, they are partners. Your kids didn't need you to be and do everything for them. They need you to be fully yourself. They're watching, and when they see you bet on your dreams, they'll believe it's possible to bet on theirs. With love, from a mama learning to lead from abundance.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Right? And this is also one of the reasons why we do what we do at Kita Family.
At Kita Family. Because we want to show that we can all lead with abundance. Mm-hmm. And as parents, we matter too.
Yep.
Oh my God. Can I share one little story? Yes, short. Like, ni pun I rasa dah nak menangis lah. Kan all this, now that I start to exercise a bit more, and then kan the timetable of the kids, sebab the two girls going to different centers and I have to like drive back and forth and everything. So adalah gap few an hour here and there. So someone asked me lah, ajak pergi join I'm not sure pergi gym, tapi ada personal trainer trainer session. And kalau nak pergi, it will make me pick up Afia maybe half an hour to 1 hour late lah. And of course tadi kan dia cakap dia okay je pergi cafe sorang-sorang because she likes her alone time dekat cafe juga. So I cakap if I join, then I have to pick you up maybe 30 to an hour later lah lepas you habis kelas. Is that okay? And she immediately said okay. So it shows that how much she supports, like, Mama nak pergi gym, pergilah, I'm okay. So yeah.
Full story.
That is.
Yeah.
And yay for Afia.
Yeah.
You're supporting Mama. Well done. So proud of you.
So tapi belum lagi lah, baru first week kan. So yeah.
Tapi dia dah offer kan. That is a big change and that's a big evolution, Didi. And we are cheering on that evolution, that she could make a decision to say, Mama's time matters too, and it's okay if I wait for half an hour. Sebab, we know many neurodivergent kids susah sangat nak tunggu, very impatient.
Yep. We're still there.
So now you know from Kakak Didi that can happen
We'll
too.
get there.
You will get there. With that, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on episode 47. Continue to like, subscribe on YouTube, as well as join us on Spotify. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And if you have any topics that you would like us to discuss, please let us know. We are happy to hear from you and happy to take suggestions. From Kita Family, episode 47. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.